My beloved child, I want you to listen carefully. Something in your heart has been changing even before you had words for it. You have felt a quiet restlessness, not panic, not fear, something deeper, a sense that one chapter is loosening its grip. Another may be preparing to open. You have asked me questions in the dark, questions you never said to anyone else. Will I ever be loved in a way that feels steady? Will someone understand the parts of me I usually hide? Will I always be the one giving more, waiting longer, and wondering whether I am too much or not enough? My beloved child, I heard every one of those questions. I heard them when they came out as prayers. I heard them when you were too tired to ask again. And while you thought nothing was moving, I was doing something quieter than any movement you could see. I was preparing you to recognize a healthier kind of connection. Not one built on panic, not one built on chasing, not one built on proving your worth every day. A connection that gives room for honesty, patience, mutual care, and peace. My beloved child, do not rush ahead and try to attach a face or a name to these words. I am not asking you to search every room or examine every conversation for a hidden sign. I am asking you to notice what I have been changing inside you. Your standards are different now. What once looked exciting can now look exhausting. What once felt like chemistry can now feel like instability. What once made you chase can now make you pause. That change is not emptiness. It is preparation. Think of Ruth walking into a field without knowing how the next chapter of her life would unfold. She did not arrive with a map of every future conversation. She simply took the faithful step available to her. Over time, character was revealed through ordinary actions. My beloved child, I want you to learn that kind of trust. You do not need to know who before you can recognize what is healthy. Look for character before intensity. Look for consistency before promises. Look for peace that can survive an honest conversation. Look for someone who does not punish you for having boundaries. Look for someone whose actions do not force you to become a detective. The connection I want you prepared for should not ask you to give up wisdom just to keep hope alive. My beloved child, there is a reason some old doors closed. I know you replayed those endings. You wondered what you could have said differently. You wondered whether you should have tried harder. You wondered whether losing them meant you had lost your chance at lasting love. But some endings revealed what you were too hopeful to see while you were inside them. You were carrying relationships that depended too much on your silence. You were calling confusion patience. You were calling inconsistency potential. You were calling emotional exhaustion loyalty. And when those doors closed, you thought the room had become empty. But empty space can become honest space. It can become room to heal, room to hear yourself again, room to remember what peace feels like, room to stop confusing being chosen with being cherished. My beloved child, I did not waste those seasons. Even the pain you would never choose has taught you something about what love should not require. And there is another side to preparation that you cannot see. The person you may one day meet is not meant to arrive as a finished answer to every wound in you. They will have their own history, their own lessons, their own places where patience had to grow, their own moments when life taught them the difference between attention and devotion. Healthy partnership is not created by two flawless people. It is built when two people are willing to tell the truth, keep growing, and handle each other's humanity with care. My beloved child, that is why readiness matters more than fantasy. You may have imagined a dramatic moment where everything suddenly makes sense, but recognition may be quieter. It may feel like not needing to perform. It may feel like your body is no longer bracing for the next change in mood. It may feel like a conversation where silence is not punishment. It may feel like being listened to without being managed. It may feel ordinary enough that fear almost talks you out of noticing it. Do not mistake calm for lack of connection simply because chaos once trained you to associate intensity with love. My beloved child, peace can feel unfamiliar before it feels safe. This is why I have been teaching you to slow down. What is worth building does not need to be forced into existence. You do not need to chase a future person. You need to become honest enough to recognize healthy fruit when it appears. Jesus taught that a tree is known by its fruit. Remember that. Words can be beautiful. First impressions can be powerful. Feelings can be intense. But fruit takes time, patience, kindness, faithfulness, self-control, truth. Those things cannot be manufactured forever. My beloved child, if someone enters your life, Let time speak. Let character speak. Let mutual respect speak. Let the way they handle disappointment speak. Let the way they respond to your boundaries speak. You do not need one mystical moment to tell you everything. You can walk with me slowly. You can pray. You can observe. You can ask wise questions. You can stay open without becoming careless. And you can remain hopeful without turning hope into certainty before the evidence is there. My beloved child, something important has already happened. You are no longer the same person who once accepted almost anything just to avoid being alone. You are beginning to understand that love should not require you to disappear. That alone changes what you are capable of receiving. Those endings were not empty. They were lessons that taught your heart what matters most. So stay near. Stay willing. Do not force a name. Do not manufacture a sign. Let what is real reveal itself through truth and time. There may be a person ahead whose presence fits the healthier life you are learning to build. And before you can understand why that connection might feel different, you need to understand why the old doors had to close. My beloved child, before you can understand why a healthier connection may feel different, you need to understand why some of the old doors had to close. I know you did not always see those endings as protection. They looked like rejection. They looked like loss. They looked like proof that something you wanted had slipped through your hands. You replayed conversations. You remembered the last message. You wondered whether you said too much or not enough. You asked yourself if you should have stayed longer. You wondered whether you should have tried harder, forgiven sooner, or waited one more time. My beloved child, I saw everyone. I also saw what you could not see while you were inside the relationship. You saw potential. I saw patterns. You saw history. I saw the cost of repeating the same cycle. You saw the fear of losing someone. I saw how much of yourself you were already losing to keep them close. Some doors had to close. What was behind them could not hold the life you were becoming ready to build. That does not mean every ending was easy. It does not mean every person was evil. Some people were simply unable to meet you where truth was asking both of you to grow. Some relationships had reached the end of what they could teach without making you abandon yourself. My beloved child, protection does not always feel gentle in the moment. Sometimes protection feels like a conversation that finally reveals what you had been avoiding. Sometimes it feels like someone choosing distance. Sometimes it feels like a plan collapsing before you were ready to let it go. Sometimes it looks like silence where you expected another chance. You called it emptiness. But empty space can become sacred space when what wounds you is gone. I was not trying to leave you with nothing. I was making room for something healthier to become possible. Think about Abraham leaving the familiar land before he understood the full shape of where he was going. He had to release what was known before he could walk into what had not yet been revealed. My beloved child, sometimes the old must stop defining the landscape before the new can be recognized. If you had carried every old attachment forward, you might have mistaken familiarity for confirmation. You might have welcomed the same pattern wearing a different face. You might have confused strong chemistry with safety again. You might have ignored inconsistency because hope was louder than discernment. This is why healing came before recognition. You needed space to learn what peace feels like without someone constantly threatening it. You needed time to hear your own voice again. You needed enough distance from old confusion to recognize consistency when it finally appeared. My beloved child, there is another part of this story that you cannot see from where you are standing. The person you may one day meet has not been walking through an easy life. They have their own history, their own disappointments, their own moments of feeling overlooked, misunderstood. They have also had things to unlearn. They have also had places where pride had to soften, where patience had to deepen. Healthy love isn't built on one healed person rescuing another broken person. It is built when two people are willing to take responsibility for what they carry. That matters. You do not need someone who arrives to fix you. You do not need someone who expects you to fix them. You need a connection where both people can say what they have learned and where they are still growing. You need people who will not make you responsible for wounds that are yours to face. That is different from the relationships you had to survive. This kind of connection has room for honesty without punishment. It has room for silence without manipulation. It has room for disagreement without making love feel threatened. It has room for boundaries without turning them into rejection. My beloved child, purpose is deeper than comfort. Comfort matters, peace matters, affection matters, but a meaningful partnership should also help both people become more truthful, more responsible, more compassionate, and more grounded. It should not pull you away from who you are becoming. It should strengthen what is already healthy inside you. Remember how Priscilla and Aquila are shown in Scripture, serving, learning, and working together. Their partnership was not presented as a performance for attention. It had movement, contribution, and shared purpose. My beloved child, that is a wiser picture to hold than fantasy. Do not ask, only will this person make me feel wanted? Ask, can we build truth together? Can we handle disappointment without becoming cruel? Can we celebrate each other without competition? Can we apologize without keeping score? Can we remain honest when honesty is uncomfortable? Can we support each other's calling without but disappearing inside the relationship? These questions protect you from confusing attraction with alignment. You are learning to let truth speak before longing drives the decision. And this is why the old doors mattered. They taught you what questions you were not asking before. They taught you that words are not enough. They taught you that intensity can disappear quickly when character is weak. They taught you that someone wanting access to you does not automatically mean they know how to care for what they receive. My beloved child, do not hate the lessons simply because they came through pain. You do not need to romanticize the pain either. Just take the wisdom, leave the wound where healing can continue. You are not being prepared to become suspicious of everyone. You are being prepared to recognize what is different without needing chaos to make it feel real. A future connection that is healthy will not have to repeat the same patterns that failed before. It will need truth, time, mutual respect, consistency, willingness, and the humility to let trust grow at a pace that reality can support. My beloved child, this is where many folks get impatient. Once they understand why the old door closed, they immediately want the new one opened. They want the name, they want the moment, they want certainty. But preparation is not finished simply because you finally understand the lesson. Recognition still needs timing. The next person should not become another answer you chase because you are tired of waiting. You do not need to hunt for a sign. You do not need to attach this message to the first person who makes your heart move. Let what is real reveal itself. Let character unfold. Let peace remain after excitement settles. Let time show whether words and actions belong together. My beloved child, the door that closed taught you not to force what cannot hold you. The next lesson is learning not to force what has not yet arrived. What belongs in your future should not require you to manufacture it in fear. And that is why I want you to understand what comes next. The name does not need to be chased. If something real is forming, it will arrive in its proper time. My beloved child, if something real is forming, it will arrive in its proper time. You do not need to chase a name through every conversation or force meaning onto every new face. You do not need to treat every coincidence like an answer. What needs to become clear can do so without panic. You want to know who. You want to know when. You want to know whether the next connection will finally be different from the ones that exhausted you before. But my beloved child, certainty is not always the first gift I give. Sometimes I give you enough light for one step, then another, then another. That is how dawn arrives. The sky does not become bright in one sudden argument with night. Light gathers slowly. Shapes become visible. What was hidden begins to take form, and eventually what you could not see becomes difficult to deny. I want you to let recognition unfold that way. Do not rush ahead of what has been revealed. Do not build a future around one conversation. Do not pin your destiny on someone who only made you feel seen for an hour. Do not confuse strong emotion with lasting alignment. My beloved child, eagerness is not the same as impatience. Eagerness says, I am open to what is good. Impatience says, I need the answer now. It threatens you'll lose your peace. One keeps your heart awake. The other makes your heart vulnerable to whatever offers quick relief. Sometimes loneliness tricked you into thinking attention meant more than it did. There were times when a kind word reached a tired place in you. You immediately began imagining what could happen next. There were times when you wanted the ending so badly. You stopped reading the middle carefully. My beloved child, I am teaching you to move differently now. You can hope without racing. You can be curious without attaching. You can feel something and still give it time. You can enjoy a conversation. You need not decide what it means before character has had a chance to speak. This is not coldness, it is wisdom. Remember how Samuel learned to recognize my voice. At first he did not understand what he was hearing. He needed guidance. He needed stillness. He needed to listen more than once before he understood clearly. My beloved child, discernment often grows through patient attention. You may notice someone. You may feel drawn to a conversation. You may find that a certain presence feels calm instead of confusing. But do not make one feeling carry the weight of a future it has not yet earned. Let truth confirm what your heart first notices. Let consistency confirm what attraction first awakens. Let time confirm what words first suggest. This is how you keep hope without turning it into fantasy. I know part of you worries that if you move slowly, you may miss what is meant for you. But fear is not a good guide. Healthy connection does not need you to abandon your judgment in order to keep it alive. If someone is worth knowing, asking questions will not ruin what is real. If something is healthy, boundaries will not destroy it. If a connection has substance, time will not expose it as empty. My beloved child, what is true can survive being seen clearly. That is why I do not want you searching for secret codes. I do not want you watching every repeated name as if repetition alone makes it sacred. I do not want you treating every thought that returns to your mind as an instruction from heaven. Your mind remembers what matters to you. Your heart notices what touches old wounds and new hopes. Those things deserve attention, but attention is not the same as confirmation. Test what you notice. Does the person show integrity when no one is trying to impress anyone? Do their actions match their words? Do they respect your pace? Do they listen when you say no? Do they remain kind when disappointed? Do they take responsibility when they are wrong? My beloved child, those answers matter more than a dramatic sign. I am not afraid of reality. You do not have to be either. A healthy connection becomes stronger when truth enters the room. It does not need mystery to survive. It does not need you to ignore what is uncomfortable. It does not need you to explain away inconsistency because you are afraid the opportunity will disappear. This is why timing matters. Time reveals what excitement hides. Time shows whether kindness is a habit or a performance. Time shows whether patience exists after attraction settles. Time shows whether someone can remain steady when they do not get their way. My beloved child, do not resent the pace that protects you. You once asked for something lasting. Lasting things deserve enough time to become known. Think of fruit growing on a tree. You cannot pull on the branch and make the fruit ripen faster. You can water, you can tend, you can wait. But forcing maturity only damages what was still developing. The same is true here. Stay open, stay grounded. Stay willing to meet people without turning each meeting into a prophecy. Let life be ordinary enough for character to show up on its own. You may be surprised by how quietly something meaningful begins. Not with fireworks, not with panic. Maybe with a conversation that feels easy. Maybe with someone who remembers what you said because they were actually listening. Maybe with a person who does not rush your vulnerability. Maybe with someone whose presence does not make you question your value afterward. My beloved child, peace can be subtle when chaos has been loud for a long time. At first, steadiness may feel almost unfamiliar. You may wonder where the intensity is. You may ask whether calm means there is no spark. But what if calm is not emptiness? What if calm is the first sign that your nervous heart is no longer being asked to survive the connection? This is what I want you to notice. Not a mystical name floating through your thoughts. Not a deadline. Not a promise that every desire will appear exactly as you imagined. Notice the quality of what is in front of you. Notice whether truth can breathe there. Notice whether you can remain yourself there. Notice whether your body feels safer after the conversation rather than more confused. My beloved child, the next name does not need to arrive as an announcement. It may simply belong to a person whose character becomes clearer with time. And if that happens, you do not need to force certainty on the first day. Let recognition deepen. Let trust grow. Let peace prove that it can remain when real life enters the room. You have been asking for something different. Different will not only sound different, it will feel different in how steadiness holds its ground. My beloved child, that is what I want to show you next. How to recognize steadiness that does not perform, does not rush, and does not leave when pressure arrives. My beloved child, slow down for a moment. Notice how steadiness actually feels beneath the rush. You've spent years around folks whose words were warm one day and distant the next. You learned to read tone and pauses. Unpredictability trained your heart to watch delayed replies and every small change. So when something healthy appears, you may not recognize it right off. Healthy steadiness doesn't always feel like a rush. Sometimes it creates relief. Sometimes it feels almost quiet. Sometimes your first thought is not, "This is exciting," but "I can breathe here." My beloved child, pay attention to that difference. A steady person does not need to impress you every hour. They do not build connection by keeping you uncertain. They do not disappear to make you chase. They do not turn affection into a reward you must earn by guessing correctly. Their words have weight because their actions keep returning to the same truth. They say they will call, and they call. They say something matters, and their behavior treats it as if it matters. They listen without searching for the fastest way to make the conversation about themselves. They can sit beside your silence without assuming silence means rejection. That kind of presence may feel unfamiliar at first. My beloved child, you have been taught by past pain to expect intensity before safety. But intensity can be manufactured. Steadiness cannot be faked forever. This is why I am asking you to watch what remains when the first excitement settles. Does kindness remain? Does respect remain? Does patience remain? Does honesty remain when the answer is uncomfortable? Does the person become defensive when you express a need, or do they stay present long enough to understand what you are trying to say? These things matter. Remember how Scripture describes love as patient and kind, not boastful, not self-seeking, not easily provoked. Those words are not decorations for a ceremony. They describe behavior that becomes visible over time. My beloved child, do not search for perfection inside those words. Search for direction. A healthy person can still misunderstand you. They can still have difficult days. They can still make mistakes. But when something goes wrong, notice what they do next. Do they take responsibility? Do they repair what they damaged? Do they make room for your experience even when it is different from theirs? Do they treat disagreement as a problem to solve together, rather than a battle someone must win? This is steadiness. It does not mean there is never emotion. It means emotion does not become a weapon. My beloved child, I also want you to notice how you feel around this kind of person, not only during the best moments. Notice what happens afterward. Do you leave the conversation peaceful or confused? Do you feel free to be honest, or do you immediately start reviewing everything you said? Do you feel respected when you set a boundary? Can you say, "I need time to think," without fearing punishment? Can you disagree without feeling that the whole connection is suddenly at risk? Your body often remembers what your mind tries to minimize. When you have lived around unpredictability, your shoulders tighten before you even realize you are afraid. You may hold your breath when a message arrives. You may have an explanation ready before anyone has accused you of anything. My beloved child, healing can make those reactions visible. And a healthier connection may give your body new information. A steady person does not raise the emotional temperature every time something feels uncertain. They do not make you prove loyalty by abandoning your own judgment. They do not demand access to every private part of you before trust has had time to grow. Instead, there is room to ask questions, room to think, room to say no, room to laugh, room to be quiet, room to be imperfect without becoming unsafe. Think about Jesus meeting folks who were afraid, ashamed, or confused. He often asked questions before giving answers. He allowed people to speak. He did not need noise to prove authority. My beloved child, strength is not always loud. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is the one who does not need to dominate it. The future connection you are being prepared to recognize should have that quality, not weakness, not passivity, steadiness. A person who can remain themselves without making you disappear. A person whose confidence does not depend on controlling your emotions. A person who can hear your truth without treating it as an attack. My beloved child, this is why I did not show you everything at once. If you had received a face, a name, and a complete story before learning these things, you might have tried to shape reality around the picture. You might have overlooked warning signs because you wanted the promise to be true. You might have forced meaning onto ordinary attraction. You might have confused your desire for certainty with guidance. So I am teaching you the qualities before the identity. I am teaching you what peace looks like before you meet the person who may carry it. I am teaching you what consistency feels like before your heart becomes attached. This protects you. It also frees you. Because when you understand the qualities, you no longer need to panic about missing the right person. You can remain open and discerning at the same time. My beloved child, look for someone whose life has taught them patience, not bitterness. Someone who has suffered but does not use suffering as permission to wound others. Someone who can speak honestly without cruelty. Someone who can hear your story without rushing to fix or judge it. Someone whose presence becomes clearer with time rather than more confusing. That kind of steadiness is often forged in hidden seasons. The person may have walked through their own disappointments. They may have had to learn boundaries. They may have had to face their own pride, fear, or insecurity. Healthy love is not the meeting of two untouched people. It is the meeting of two people who are willing to keep growing. My beloved child, if such a person enters your life, do not demand that one peaceful moment prove everything. Let the pattern speak. Let time speak. Let character speak. Peace is important, but peace becomes trustworthy when it is supported by truth. Steadiness becomes meaningful when it remains through inconvenience. Honesty becomes valuable when it survives conflict. You do not need to rush recognition. You only need to stay awake. And there is something else you must understand before you can receive steadiness without sabotaging it. Your heart has learned to build gates. Those gates were not foolish. They helped you survive seasons when trust was handled carelessly. But a gate built for protection can become a prison if it never opens again. You can open slowly, watch carefully, and let something healthy come near without fear. My beloved child, the next lesson is not to throw away wisdom. It is to learn how to unlock the gate without surrendering the discernment that wisdom gave you. My beloved child, the next lesson is not to throw away wisdom. It is to learn how to unlock the gate without surrendering the discernment that wisdom gave you. You built that gate for a reason. You learned to protect yourself because trust once cost you more than you expected. You gave freely, explained patiently, and waited longer than you should have. Sometimes you received confusion in return. You remember what that felt like. Words sounded beautiful, but actions moved in another direction. Promises arrived quickly, but consistency disappeared slowly. You wondered if you were expecting too much when all you wanted was somebody to be straight with you. My beloved child, I saw what that did to you. You became careful. You started reading between every line. You noticed every change in tone. You learned to prepare for disappointment before it had even arrived. That caution was not foolish. It was a response to being handled carelessly. But now I want to teach you the difference between protection and imprisonment. A gate can keep danger out, but if it never opens, it keeps goodness out too. I am not asking you to tear it down. I am asking you to learn when to unlock it. My beloved child, willingness is not the same as recklessness. Recklessness ignores what is true because it wants an outcome. Willingness stays open while still paying attention. Recklessness says, I feel something, so I must trust immediately. Willingness says, I feel something, so I will stay present and let truth show itself. That difference matters. Remember Nehemiah rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem. The people worked with purpose, but they also remained watchful. Protection and progress existed together. They did not abandon the work because danger existed. They did not pretend danger was impossible because they had faith. My beloved child, you can live that way too. You can open your heart slowly. You can remain kind without becoming naive. You can give someone space to know you without handing them keys to every vulnerable part before trust is earned. You can listen to hope without silencing wisdom. You can say yes to one conversation without promising your future. You can let someone come closer without abandoning the boundaries that helped you heal. This is not fear. This is maturity. You are no longer standing where you once stood. You have learned that peace does not ask you to ignore evidence. You have learned that a person will not fear your questions. What is genuine can survive patience, boundaries, honesty, and the revealing of character. There were seasons when your walls became so familiar that you stopped noticing them. You told yourself you were simply independent. But sometimes independence was hiding the sentence, I do not want to need anyone because needing people has hurt before. You said you were protecting your peace. Sometimes you were. Other times you were avoiding the possibility of being known because being known felt dangerous. My beloved child, I understand why. When someone once used your honesty against you, silence began to feel safer. When vulnerability was met with indifference, distance felt wise. When your needs were called excessive, you learned to need less in public. But healing is not becoming a person who needs nothing. Healing is learning who can be trusted with what is real. And trust should grow in layers, not all at once. Not because someone asks for it, not because you are lonely, not because the connection feels intense. Trust grows when behavior gives your heart repeated reasons to relax. My beloved child, pay attention to what a person does with small access before giving larger access. Do they protect what you share? Do they respect a no without trying to talk you out of it? Do they become more curious when you disagree or more controlling? Can they apologize without turning the apology into another argument? Can they hear something difficult without making you responsible for their olabag et temak, entire emotional reaction? These things tell you whether the gate should open another inch. You do not need to swing it wide because you had one meaningful conversation. Let trust earn movement. Let consistency earn closeness. Let mutual respect earn deeper vulnerability. My beloved child, this is how wisdom and openness walk together. The source of your old fear was not that you loved too deeply. It was often that you ignored what reality was showing you because you wanted the relationship to become what you hoped it could be. You kept watering potential while neglecting evidence. You believed another promise after the pattern had already spoken. You thought patience meant waiting forever for someone to become willing. Now you are learning differently. Patience does not require self-abandonment. Compassion does not require endless access. Forgiveness does not require immediate trust. Hope does not require denial. My beloved child, that is what makes you more ready now than you were before. Readiness is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to notice fear without letting it make every decision. It is the ability to feel hope without turning hope into certainty. It is the ability to remain open while reality is still unfolding. This is why I do not want you obsessed with signs. A repeated name can catch your attention, but repetition alone does not tell you what a person means for your life. A conversation can stay in your thoughts, but that does not automatically make it destiny. A strong feeling can invite you to look closer, but feelings still need truth, time, character, and mutual willingness around them. My beloved child, I want your spirit awake, not superstitious. Notice what matters. Then test what you notice. Does this connection make honesty easier or harder? Does it invite you to become more grounded or more anxious? Does it respect your relationship with me, your responsibilities, your values, and your boundaries? Does it produce good fruit over time? That is discernment. Jesus taught his followers to be wise and innocent. Those qualities belong together. A soft heart does not require a careless mind. My beloved child, the gate does not have to stay locked forever just because someone once entered carelessly. You are allowed to learn from the past without forcing the future to pay for it. You are allowed to let a new person be new. Do not punish them for wounds they did not create. But do not excuse harmful behavior simply because you want this time to be different. Let each person reveal themselves. Let the relationship breathe. Let there be enough space for reality to speak. And as you practice this, you may notice something unexpected. The biggest lock might not be on the gate between you and someone else. It may be inside you. It may be the old verdict that says you are too damaged to be loved well, too complicated, too late, too difficult. My beloved child, before you can fully receive healthy connection, that verdict must be examined. Because I never wrote that sentence for you to be forced to carry through your life. And that is where I want to take you next. My beloved child, this is where I want you to look inward with honesty. The biggest lock might not be on the gate between you and someone else. It may be the verdict you have carried about yourself for years. Too damaged, too complicated, too late, too difficult to love well. You may not say those words out loud. They've still shaped the way you enter relationships. You have looked at your history. You have asked whether someone could truly know the whole story and still choose to stay. You remember your mistakes. You remember the moments when fear made you react badly. You remember the relationship where you ignored what you knew because you were afraid of being alone. You remember the words you wish you could take back. And somewhere inside you began treating those memories like evidence against your future. My beloved child, I need you to hear this clearly. Your past can teach you without sentencing you. You can take responsibility without turning it into condemnation. You can admit where you were wrong. You don't have to decide you're wrong at the deepest level of who you are. That verdict you pinned on yourself doesn't carry my signature. I did not write it. Remember Peter after he denied Jesus. His failure was not hidden. It was real, painful, and public enough to wound his confidence deeply. Yet Jesus did not meet him afterward with humiliation. He met him with restoration, truth, and a call to move forward. My beloved child, grace doesn't pretend that nothing happened. Grace refuses to let what happened become the only thing that defines you. You may have failed at love before. That does not mean you are incapable of loving well now. You may have stayed too long in something unhealthy. That does not mean you deserve unhealthy love. You may have trusted someone who hurt you. That does not make you foolish forever. You may have hurt someone while you were wounded yourself. That may require apology, change, and accountability. But even then, shame does not get to become your identity. There is a difference between conviction and condemnation. Conviction says this needs to change. Condemnation says you will never change. Conviction brings you toward truth. Condemnation keeps you hiding from it. My beloved child, I am calling you toward truth. You do not have to defend every version of yourself, and you do not have to destroy them either. Bring them into the light, learn what they reveal, and keep walking with humility. Not a flattering version of yourself, not a perfect version, the honest version, the one who can say, I have made mistakes, and I am learning. I have wounds, and I am healing. I have fears, and I am learning not to let them govern every decision. I have a past, but I am not trapped inside it. That is maturity. And that kind of honesty makes healthier connection possible. You don't need someone to come along and wipe your slate clean. You need to stop using your history as proof that you do not deserve to be loved with respect. My beloved child, the person who is healthy for you should not require a courtroom where you constantly present evidence of your worth. You should not have to prove that you are useful enough, attractive enough, successful enough, easy enough, spiritual enough, quiet enough, strong enough. Love that depends on constant performance will eventually exhaust you. I want you prepared for something different. A connection where both people can be imperfect without becoming careless. Where truth can be spoken without someone threatening to leave every time discomfort enters the room. Where accountability exists without humiliation. Where forgiveness is possible but change still matters. Where both people are allowed to grow. My beloved child, this begins with how you see yourself. If you secretly believe you are difficult to love, you may tolerate people who confirm that belief. If you believe your past makes you less valuable, you may accept less respect because part of you thinks it is all you deserve. If you believe you must earn closeness, you may keep overgiving long after the relationship has stopped being mutual. That is why the verdict matters. It becomes a script, and scripts repeat until truth interrupts them. Think about the prodigal son returning home. He had already prepared a reduced identity for himself. He planned to come back not as a son, but as someone who would work for a place near the house. Yet the father moved toward him before that lower identity could become the final story. My beloved child, you have done something similar. You have rehearsed a smaller place for yourself. You have said, maybe I should not expect too much. Maybe I should be grateful for whatever attention I get. Maybe asking for consistency is unreasonable. Maybe having boundaries will make people leave. Maybe being fully myself is too risky. But I am asking you to stop negotiating against your own worth before anyone else even enters the conversation. You are not worthy because you never failed. You are worthy of dignity because you are mine. You are worthy of honesty. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of being treated as a person, not a project, a convenience, or an emotional supply. That does not mean every person you desire must choose you. It does not mean every relationship will work. It means rejection does not become proof that your value disappeared. My beloved child, another person's choice is not a final judgment over your life. People choose according to their own readiness, wounds, desires, fears, and freedom. Sometimes they will not choose you. Sometimes you will wisely choose not to continue with them. Neither situation needs to become a verdict about human worth. This is where freedom begins. You can meet someone without begging the whole time to prove you're lovable. You can let a connection unfold without making their response responsible for your identity. You can enjoy being wanted without making being wanted your source of value. And if disappointment comes, you can grieve it without collapsing back into the old sentence that says, "Of course this happened because something is wrong with me." My beloved child, let that sentence go. Release the need to punish yourself for every version of you that did not yet know what you know now. Learn from that person. Have compassion for that person. Correct what still needs correcting, but stop dragging them into every new room as evidence against your future. There is something beautiful about being known by someone who does not need you to pretend. But before you can receive that kind of love, you must stop presenting a smaller version of yourself just to make acceptance easier. You have done that before. You softened your needs. You swallowed your questions. You changed your tone. You became easier to manage because you were afraid that honesty would cost you closeness. My beloved child, the next part of your healing is learning that love doesn't require you to disappear. And that is what I want to show you next. My beloved child, the next part of your healing is learning that love doesn't require you to disappear. You've spent too many seasons editing yourself to keep someone else comfortable. You softened your needs. You delayed honest conversations. You said you were fine when you were not. You swallowed questions because you feared the answer might change the relationship. You learned how to become smaller without calling it shrinking. But peace that requires your silence is not peace. My beloved child, I saw the cost. I saw how often you rehearsed a sentence before speaking. You were trying to predict how the other person might react. I saw you soften your tone so the truth would land easier for someone else. I saw you apologize for emotions that were not wrong. You did it simply because they made another person uncomfortable. That kind of love leaves you exhausted. You begin watching yourself instead of living. You ask, was I too honest? And slowly the relationship stops being a place where you are known. It becomes a stage where you perform a version of yourself that feels safer to present. My beloved child, I am not preparing you for another stage. I am preparing you for truth. Healthy connection does not require you to become loud, demanding, or careless. It simply allows you to remain real. You can speak without being punished for speaking. You can be quiet without someone using silence against you. You can have needs without turning those needs into shame. You can say this hurt me without being told that your feelings are the problem. My beloved child, someone who cares for you well may not always agree with you, but they should not require you to disappear in order to stay connected. Remember Martha and Mary. Jesus met each woman in the reality of who she was. He listened to grief. He allowed questions. He did not demand that sorrow become polished before it could come near him. Real relationship has room for the whole person, not only the easy parts, not only the agreeable parts. My beloved child, this is where you must become honest about the pattern you used before. Sometimes you gave too much to feel secure. If you could always be useful, maybe they would need you. If they needed you, maybe they would not leave. So you became the listener, the fixer, the patient one, the one who understood everything. You carried their moods. You explained their behavior. You made room for their wounds. But when your own heart needed care, you often found yourself alone. That is not mutual love. But compassion without reciprocity can turn into self-abandonment. My beloved child, you are not being asked to become selfish. You are being asked to stop calling imbalanced devotion. Healthy love has movement in both directions. Both people listen, both people repair, both people make room. Both people carry responsibility for the emotional climate they create. You should not be the only person keeping the connection alive. If every difficult conversation depends on you being softer, wiser, calmer, more forgiving, and more patient, the other person refusing to grow means something is wrong. My beloved child, love can ask effort from you. It should not require erasure. There is a difference. Effort says, let us work through this together. Erasure says, become less so, I do not have to change. Effort says, tell me what I missed. Erasure says, stop bringing this up. Effort says, I was wrong and I want to repair it. Erasure says, you are too sensitive. You are learning to recognize that difference now. And this is part of why your standards have changed. What once looked romantic may now look exhausting. What once looked like loyalty may now look like fear of losing someone. What once looked like sacrifice may now look like constantly abandoning yourself. My beloved child, do not be ashamed that it took time to see this. You were learning with the tools you had. Now you have better tools. If someone enters your life, let them meet the real you gradually. Do not hand them a performance. Do not pretend you need less than you need. Do not hide your faith, values, responsibilities, or boundaries just to keep someone interested. What has substance does not need you to become fake in order to survive. My beloved child, being truly seen will feel vulnerable at first. You have spent years believing that being manageable was safer than being known, but being managed is not being loved. A person can admire the version you perform and still never meet you. I want you prepared for something deeper, something where you can say what you mean, something where the other person can say what they mean, something where neither of you must constantly decode the other. That does not mean every conversation will be easy. Honesty can be uncomfortable, but discomfort is different from danger. A difficult truth can still be spoken with respect. A boundary can still be received without punishment. A disagreement can happen without threatening the entire relationship. My beloved child, that is the kind of ground where trust can grow. And notice what happens inside you when you imagine that. Part of you may feel relief. Another part may become suspicious. You may think people like that don't exist. Or if someone is that kind, why would they choose me? Those thoughts belong to the old verdict you are releasing. Do not let them pull you back into shrinking. You do not need to audition for healthy love. You need to participate in it. Bring willingness to apologize. Bring willingness to listen. Bring boundaries. Bring compassion. Bring the courage to let someone know you without turning them into your entire identity. My beloved child, there is another lesson here. You cannot control who becomes ready for you. You cannot force another person to grow. You cannot love someone into emotional maturity if they refuse responsibility. Your task is not to become irresistible enough that no one ever leaves. Your task is to become truthful enough that you no longer betray yourself just to make someone stay. That is freedom. And freedom changes your position. When you stop chasing approval, your priorities shift. When you stop making relationship your proof of worth, you make different decisions. When you stop spending all your energy keeping an unstable connection alive, you finally have room to notice what else is changing. My beloved child, this is where hidden preparation starts to show itself. You may notice that certain interests no longer hold you. Certain conversations no longer satisfy you. Certain patterns feel too small for the person you are becoming. That is not random emptiness. It may be repositioning, not toward a guaranteed person or predetermined name, but toward a healthier way of living and loving. And when your inner position changes, what you recognize outside yourself begins to change too. My beloved child, I want to show you the hidden work that has been repositioning you. It began long before you noticed it. My beloved child, I want to show you the hidden work that has been repositioning you. It began long before you noticed it. Some of the deepest movement has happened quietly. It happened in conversations that ended sooner than expected. It happened in the plans that lost their appeal. It happened in relationships you no longer had strength to carry. You called some of those moments disappointment, but they were also information. They showed you what no longer fit. They showed you where your peace disappeared. They showed you which patterns could not follow you into a healthier life. My beloved child, I was not idle in those seasons. While you were asking why a door closed, I was teaching you. I was showing you what kind of door you should stop trying to reopen. While you were wondering why a conversation faded, I was helping you listen. I was letting the silence tell you. While you were grieving what left, I was slowly returning your attention. I pointed to what remained. Your values, your voice, your boundaries, your capacity to choose differently. This is what repositioning often looks like. It does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels like boredom with what once consumed you. Sometimes it feels like losing interest in people you once chased for approval. Sometimes it feels like realizing that a lifestyle you admired costs too much peace. My beloved child, do not panic when your priorities change. Growth often makes old rooms feel smaller. Think of Abram being called to leave what was familiar before he knew the full shape of what was ahead. He was not handed every detail first. He was asked to move with trust, step by step. He was asked to move with trust, step by step. He moved away from what had become too small for the promise ahead. You have had moments like that too. Not dramatic journeys, but quiet departures inside your heart. You stopped needing certain people to understand you. You stopped wanting attention from places that once made you feel important. You stopped confusing constant activity with purpose. You began asking whether what you pursued helped you become more honest, peaceful, and whole. My beloved child, that is not emptiness. That is alignment beginning. And alignment often requires subtraction before addition. Something has to lose its grip so your hands can become available for what is healthier. This is why some failed conversations were not failures. They clarified, they revealed, they showed you where effort was mutual and where you were carrying everything alone. They showed you the difference between someone being interested in you and someone being prepared to build with you. They showed you whether honesty created closeness or punishment. These lessons have been repositioning you. My beloved child, you may also notice certain people, ideas, or conversations lingering in your awareness. Pay attention, but do not rush to label them. A name may catch your attention, a face may stay in your memory, a conversation may continue echoing after it ends. That can be meaningful. But meaningful does not automatically mean destined. Your task is not to turn every moment into a prophecy. Your task is to notice what deserves a closer look. Then let truth do the confirming. Let time speak. Let character speak. Let consistency speak. Let mutual respect speak. Let the fruit of the connection speak. My beloved child, discernment is not cynicism. Cynicism assumes nothing good can be real. Discernment says, I am open and I am willing to see clearly. That is where I want you. Open but not desperate. Hopeful but not easily persuaded. Willing but not careless. You have spent enough time forcing meaning. You feared nothing meaningful would come. Now you can let meaning reveal itself. This is new for you. You are learning to stand still long enough to observe. You are learning not to pursue every possibility simply because it appears. You are learning attraction can exist without becoming attachment. You are learning curiosity can wait until reality gives you more. My beloved child, this kind of patience protects you from repeating what you have already outgrown. There is another sign of repositioning. Your internal reactions are changing. The old message that kept you awake now bothers you less. The person whose approval controlled your mood has less power now. The silence that once made you panic now gives you room to think. The boundary that once filled you with guilt now feels like honesty. These shifts matter. They show you are becoming available for healthier relationships because old fear no longer organizes you. My beloved child, preparation does not only change what you receive, it changes what you recognize. When you are starving for attention, any attention can look like love. When you are grounded in your worth, you can tell the difference. When you are terrified of being alone, inconsistency can seem better than emptiness. When you learn peace, inconsistency becomes harder to romanticize. This is why I have been working inside you first. You needed new eyes before you could recognize new fruit. You needed a steadier heart to receive steadiness without mistrusting it. You needed stronger boundaries before closeness could become safe. My beloved child, do not underestimate the hidden work. A compass can change direction before the traveler takes one visible step. A ship can turn slowly, long before the shoreline looks different. That is what has been happening. You are turning. Your priorities are turning. Your standards are turning. Your understanding of love is turning. Because of that, people and opportunities that once seemed perfect may look different now. That is not loss of faith. It is evidence that discernment has matured. My beloved child, there may be another person somewhere doing their own hidden work too. Healthy partnership requires preparation on both sides. The person who can meet you with steadiness must also learn steadiness. The person who can respect your boundaries must understand their own. The person who holds honest conversation must face their own fear of truth. You cannot prepare another person for them. You cannot rush their process. You cannot make someone ready because you are. This is why timing matters. This is why alignment matters. Two people can care and still be unprepared to build something healthy. Two people can have chemistry and still lack maturity for trust. My beloved child, do not call that tragedy. Sometimes it is simply reality asking for more growth. And when growth is real, alignment becomes clearer. Not through pressure, not through panic, through truth. through timing, through mutual willingness, through two people becoming capable of meeting without demanding that the other rescue them. My beloved child, you have been repositioned more than you realize. Now the next question is not only whether you are becoming ready, it is how alignment prepares both hearts so that what begins has enough strength to grow. It must grow with patience, truth, courage, and mutual responsibility intact. My beloved child, alignment is not only about meeting the right person, it is also about becoming the kind of person who can recognize and receive. It is about building something healthy when it appears. That is why the hidden work inside you has mattered. Your standards have changed. Your reactions have changed. Your willingness to walk away from confusion has changed. And those changes are preparing your heart to meet life differently. But alignment is rarely one-sided. A healthy connection requires two people who are each learning how to carry truth, responsibility, and love with maturity. You cannot do that work for someone else. You cannot pray another person into readiness while they refuse to grow. You cannot love someone into honesty if they keep choosing avoidance. And you cannot force timing simply because your own heart feels prepared. My beloved child, patience becomes part of alignment. Think of a field before planting. The ground may look empty, but work happens before the seed touches the soil. Stones are removed. Hard places are broken. The earth is turned. Moisture begins to reach what was dry. Preparation often feels disruptive before it feels like growth. You experienced that. Certain attachments loosened. Certain habits became uncomfortable. Certain conversations no longer satisfied you. You started noticing how much energy you spent chasing clarity from folks who kept handing you confusion. You found yourself wanting peace more than intensity. That is the soil changing. My beloved child, another person who may build something meaningful with you would need their own version of that work. They may need to learn how to communicate instead of shutting down. They may need to stop confusing independence with emotional distance. They may need to face the fear that closeness always leads to loss. They may need to learn patience, accountability, humility, and how to stay present when a conversation becomes uncomfortable. You cannot skip those lessons for them, and they cannot skip your lessons for you. This is why chemistry alone is not enough. Two people can feel drawn to each other and still be unable to build something stable. Two people can care deeply and still carry patterns that turn love into survival. Two people can have good intentions and still wound each other if neither has learned how to repair, listen, or take responsibility. My beloved child, alignment is more than attraction. It is two lives becoming capable of moving in the same direction without one person disappearing inside the other. Remember how Scripture speaks about being equally yoked. Two animals pulling together need enough alignment in direction and pace to move the load without constantly fighting each other. That does not mean two people must be identical. It means direction matters, values matter, character matters. The way each person handles responsibility matters. My beloved child, healthy alignment allows difference without turning difference into constant conflict. One person may move more slowly. One may speak more directly. One may need more time before opening deeply. But underneath those differences, there should be shared respect, honesty, willingness, and responsibility. That gives a connection room to grow, and sometimes alignment requires release before it requires receiving. You may have to release the version of love that always keeps you guessing. You may have to release the belief that strong attraction is proof of compatibility. You may have to release the fantasy that the right person will heal every wound without effort from you. You may have to release the need to control how the story begins. My beloved child, open hands are better prepared to receive than clenched ones. A clenched hand can protect what it already holds, but it cannot receive something new without first loosening its grip. That is why some recent changes have felt uncomfortable. You are loosening your grip on old definitions, old expectations, old roles, old ways of proving your worth. That discomfort does not always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means something rigid is finally becoming flexible again. Think of clay in the hands of a potter. Before it can become useful, it has to remain responsive. Clay that refuses movement cannot take a new shape. My beloved child, I am not asking you to lose your identity. I am asking you to remain teachable. The healthiest version of you is not someone who never changes. It is the one who can change without betraying truth. The same would need to be true of anyone who walks closely with you. They should not arrive convinced that growth is finished. They should be willing to listen, willing to apologize, willing to learn your world without demanding that it become identical to theirs, willing to let love refine them too. My beloved child, this is how two hearts become ready without becoming perfect. Readiness is not flawless healing. It is enough awareness to recognize your patterns, enough humility to admit when fear is speaking, enough courage to tell the truth before resentment grows, enough patience to let trust develop instead of demanding immediate certainty, enough self-respect to leave what repeatedly violates what is healthy. This alignment is worth waiting for, and if you meet someone, do not assume one peaceful conversation proves that both hearts are fully prepared. Let readiness reveal itself through repeated choices. Watch how both of you handle disappointment. Watch whether communication improves after misunderstanding. Watch whether boundaries become clearer rather than constantly negotiated away. Watch whether both people can take responsibility without turning every conflict into a trial. My beloved child, alignment is not a mystical feeling that removes the need for wisdom. It is a pattern that becomes more visible over time. You may feel a quiet stirring around someone. You may notice that a conversation matters to you. You may sense that something deserves attention. But let those feelings invite observation, not immediate conclusions. What is real does not need panic. It can withstand time. It can withstand questions. It can withstand prayer. It can withstand wise counsel. My beloved child, this is how you remain open without becoming lost inside hope. There may be another heart somewhere learning lessons that will one day make healthy partnership possible. You do not need to know who that person is today. You do not need to imagine what they are doing tonight. Your responsibility is to remain faithful with the life in front of you. Keep becoming honest. Keep strengthening your boundaries. Keep letting peace replace urgency. Keep building a life that does not collapse simply because relationship has not arrived yet. Because alignment is strongest when two whole lives meet, not when two desperate people ask each other to become rescue. My beloved child, if something meaningful is forming, it does not need to be rushed into existence. It needs enough truth to hold, enough time to reveal character, enough willingness on both sides to grow. And that brings us to the next lesson. You have lived in a world that celebrates speed, immediate answers, and instant certainty. But healthy love often moves at another pace. Before you mistake slowness for absence, I want to teach you how to refuse impatience. Recognize the pace of peace. My beloved child, before you mistake slowness for absence, I want to teach you how to refuse impatience and recognize the pace of peace. You have lived in a world that celebrates speed. People move from one thing to the next. It's as if anything that takes time must be failing. That pressure has entered the way you think about love too. You wonder why someone does not open up immediately. But my beloved child, certainty is not always the first gift I give. Sometimes I give you enough light for one step, then another, then another. That is how dawn arrives. The sky does not become bright in one sudden argument with night. Light gathers slowly. Shapes become visible. What was hidden begins to take form. And eventually what you could not see becomes difficult to deny. I want you to let recognition unfold that way. Do not rush ahead of what has been revealed. Do not build a future around one conversation. Do not pin your destiny on someone who only made you feel seen for an hour. Do not confuse strong emotion with lasting alignment. My beloved child, eagerness is not the same as impatience. Eagerness says, I am open to what is good. Impatience says, I need the answer now. It threatens you'll lose your peace. One keeps your heart awake, the other makes your heart vulnerable to whatever offers quick relief. Sometimes loneliness tricked you into thinking attention meant more than it did. There were times when a kind word reached a tired place in you. You immediately began imagining what could happen next. There were times when you wanted the ending so badly, you stopped reading the middle carefully. My beloved child, I am teaching you to move differently now. You can hope without racing. You can be curious without attaching. You can feel something and still give it time. You can enjoy a conversation. You need not decide what it means before character has had a chance to speak. This is not coldness, it is wisdom. Remember how Samuel learned to recognize my voice. At first he did not understand what he was hearing. He needed guidance. He needed stillness. He needed to listen more than once before he understood clearly. My beloved child, discernment often grows through patient attention. You may notice someone. You may feel drawn to a conversation. You may find that a certain presence feels calm instead of confusing. But do not make one feeling carry the weight of a future it has not yet earned. Let truth confirm what your heart first notices. Let consistency confirm what attraction first awakens. Let time confirm what words first suggest. This is how you keep hope without turning it into fantasy. I know part of you worries that if you move slowly, you may miss what is meant for you. But fear is not a good guide. Healthy connection does not need you to abandon your judgment in order to keep it alive. If someone is worth knowing, asking questions will not ruin what is real. If something is healthy, boundaries will not destroy it. If a connection has substance, time will not expose it as empty. My beloved child, what is true can survive being seen clearly. That is why I do not want you searching for secret codes. I do not want you watching every repeated name as if repetition alone makes it sacred. I do not want you treating every thought that returns to your mind as an instruction from heaven. Your mind remembers what matters to you. Your heart notices what touches old wounds and new hopes. Those things deserve attention, but attention is not the same as confirmation. Test what you notice. Does the person show integrity when no one is trying to impress anyone? Do their actions match their words? Do they respect your pace? Do they listen when you say no? Do they remain kind when disappointed? Do they take responsibility when they are wrong? My beloved child, those answers matter more than a dramatic sign. I am not afraid of reality. You do not have to be either. A healthy connection becomes stronger when truth enters the room. It does not need mystery to survive. It does not need you to ignore what is uncomfortable. It does not need you to explain away inconsistency because you are afraid the opportunity will disappear. This is why timing matters. Time reveals what excitement hides. Time shows whether kindness is a habit or a performance. Time shows whether patience exists after attraction settles. Time shows whether someone can remain steady when they do not get their way. My beloved child, do not resent the pace that protects you. You once asked for something lasting. Lasting things deserve enough time to become known. Think of fruit growing on a tree. You cannot pull on the branch and make the fruit ripen faster. You can water, you can tend, you can wait. But forcing maturity only damages what was still developing. The same is true here. Stay open. Stay grounded. Stay willing to meet people without turning each meeting into a prophecy. Let life be ordinary enough for character to show up on its own. You may be surprised by how quietly something meaningful begins. Not with fireworks, not with panic, maybe with a conversation that feels easy. Maybe with someone who remembers what you said because they were actually listening. Maybe with a person who does not rush your vulnerability. Maybe with someone whose presence does not make you question your value afterward. My beloved child, peace can be subtle when chaos has been loud for a long time. At first, steadiness may feel almost unfamiliar. You may wonder where the intensity is. You may ask whether calm means there is no spark. But what if calm is not emptiness? What if calm is the first sign that your nervous heart is no longer being asked to survive the connection? This is what I want you to notice. Not a mystical name floating through your thoughts. Not a deadline. Not a promise that every desire will appear exactly as you imagined. Notice the quality of what is in front of you. Notice whether truth can breathe there. Notice whether you can remain yourself there. Notice whether your body feels safer after the conversation rather than more confused. My beloved child, the next name does not need to arrive as an announcement. It may simply belong to a person whose character becomes clearer with time. And if that happens, you do not need to force certainty on the first day. Let recognition deepen. Let trust grow. Let peace prove that it can remain when real life enters the room. You have been asking for something different. Different will not only sound different, it will feel different in how steadiness holds its ground. My beloved child, patience is not evidence that nothing is happening. Sometimes patience is the very space where honesty becomes visible and false urgency loses its power over your decisions. My beloved child, that is what I want to show you next. How to recognize steadiness that does not perform, does not rush, and does not leave when pressure arrives. My beloved child, I want you to recognize this kind of steadiness. You've spent too long confusing survival with love. You know what it feels like to enter a room and immediately study the atmosphere. You notice the face, the tone, the silence, the smallest change in energy. Before anyone says anything, your body is already preparing. You learn to measure your words before speaking. You learn to ask whether honesty would create connection or punishment. You learn to watch for the moment affection might suddenly turn to distance. My beloved child, those habits were not signs of weakness. They appeared because your heart was trying to survive environments where safety was promised but not consistently given. Then one honest sentence was remembered and used against you later. You may have been told, "I am not going anywhere." Then conflict came and suddenly love became uncertain. You may have opened a vulnerable place and discovered that the person holding it did not know how to handle it with care. It teaches the nervous system to stay ready. It teaches the heart to hide before danger has even arrived. My beloved child, I do not want you carrying that survival posture into every new connection. You are allowed to learn safety again. Not blind trust, not instant trust, real safety. Safety that grows through repeated evidence. Safety that does not demand access before trust exists. Safety that does not punish you for taking your time. Safety that leaves room for your no. Safety that does not make you afraid to say, "I need to think about this." Think about how Jesus treated people who came to him with fear, shame, questions, and wounds. He did not need to humiliate them to establish truth. He could be direct without being cruel. He could see what was hidden without using it as a weapon. A healthy person may challenge you. They may disagree. They may tell you something you do not enjoy hearing, but challenge should not feel like emotional danger. Truth does not need intimidation to remain true. Love does not need fear to remain strong. You have known relationships where every difficult conversation felt like standing on thin ice. One wrong sentence could change the whole evening. One question could become an accusation. One boundary could create hours of distance. So you learn to become careful. You learn to manage the other person's emotions before you even understood your own. My beloved child, that is survival. Safety feels different. What is healthy does not ask your body to live in preparation for harm. Safety gives both people permission to remain human. Someone can be disappointed without turning cruel. Someone can feel hurt without becoming cruel. Someone can ask for space without disappearing to control you. Someone can make a mistake and still return to repair what happened. Not whether someone never causes discomfort. Notice whether discomfort can be handled without destroying connection. Notice whether truth makes the relationship clearer instead of more confusing. Notice whether vulnerability is protected after it is shared. Notice whether your honesty is treated as information, not ammunition. My beloved child, you may not trust safety immediately. Sometimes calm makes a wounded heart suspicious. You may think, "What am I missing?" You may wait for the hidden problem. You may question why you are not feeling the same emotional rush you felt in past relationships. Your body may have learned to associate intensity with connection. When affection was unpredictable, every return felt powerful. When someone pulled away and came back, relief felt like romance. But relief after fear is not the same as peace. My beloved child, learn that difference. Peace does not have to frighten you, so calm can feel exciting afterward. Healthy love does not need repeated crises to prove that it is alive. It can breathe in ordinary days. It can survive quiet evenings. It can exist without constant reassurance. It can allow both people to have responsibilities, friendships, work, rest, and private thought without turning independence into rejection. This is why safety often feels spacious. Room for two whole people. Room for questions. Room for disagreement. Room for laughter. Room for seriousness. Room for silence that is not punishment. My beloved child, when you experience that kind of space, an old part of you may still try to fill it with fear. You may begin overthinking because nothing is wrong. You may search for a problem because peace feels too quiet. When that happens, do not shame yourself. Ask what is actually happening now, not what happened before, not what you fear may happen later. What is true now? Is this person consistent? Are their words and actions aligned? Do they respect your boundaries? Can they hear feedback? Can they admit when they are wrong? Can you remain yourself without constantly managing their reaction? Let present evidence speak louder than old memory. My beloved child, the past can inform your wisdom without becoming the judge of every new person. You do not need to punish someone for what another person did. And you do not need to ignore warning signs just because you desperately want the future to be different. Safety requires both openness and discernment. That is why I keep teaching you to watch for fruit. Character shows itself in ordinary moments. How does someone speak about people who cannot benefit them? How do they behave when tired? How do they handle frustration? How do they respond when you do not immediately agree? How do they treat your private story once you trust them with it? My beloved child, those things reveal more than dramatic promises. A person can say, "I would never hurt you." Time shows whether they handle your heart carefully. A person can say, "You can trust me." Time shows whether trust grows naturally around their choices. Let safety become visible. Let it become consistent. Let your body slowly learn that every silence does not predict abandonment. Let your heart discover that honesty does not always end in punishment. Let yourself experience a connection where being known does not require being controlled. My beloved child, this is part of breaking the old pattern. You are not trying to become fearless. You are learning that fear does not need to run the relationship. You are not trying to be completely healed before anyone can love you. You are learning how to bring wounds into connection responsibly, without asking another person to become your rescuer. And the person beside you must be willing to do the same. Safety is mutual. Respect is mutual. Repair is mutual. Growth is mutual. No one carries the whole relationship alone. My beloved child, this is the ground where something stronger than intensity can grow. It is where faithfulness begins to matter more than perfection. Because the person who is safe for you will still be human. They will have weaknesses. They will misunderstand things. They will need grace. So will you. The next lesson is learning what to look for when perfection is impossible, but faithfulness is still available. My beloved child, now that you understand what safety can feel like, I want you to let go of another expectation that has quietly followed you into relationships. Stop looking for perfection. The person who can walk beside you in a healthy way will still be human. They will have limits and weaknesses. They will have unfinished places and moments when they do not know exactly what to say. So will you. What matters is not that either of you never fails. What matters is what happens after the failure. Do they return to honesty? Do they take responsibility? Do they make room for repair? Do they keep showing up with intention when the easy feelings are not carrying the relationship? My beloved child, faithfulness is quieter than perfection. It is far more valuable. Perfection performs, faithfulness remains. Perfection tries to create an image that cannot be questioned. Faithfulness tells the truth, even when the truth reveals weakness. Perfection wants admiration. Faithfulness builds trust. You have been impressed by appearances before. You have heard beautiful promises. You watched someone say everything your heart wanted to hear, then later discovered their words had no roots. That is why I am teaching you to look deeper now. Do not ask whether someone always knows the perfect response. Ask whether they are willing to listen when they miss you. Do not ask whether conflict never happens. Ask whether both of you can return to the conversation without cruelty. Do not ask whether fear never appears. Ask whether fear can tell the truth without being allowed to take control of the relationship. My beloved child, Scripture tells the story of Thomas, who struggled to believe after hope had been shattered. Jesus did not reject him because doubt appeared. He met him, answered what needed to be answered, and brought him back toward trust. That is a picture worth remembering. Human weakness does not automatically destroy connection. What destroys connection is refusing truth, refusing responsibility, and refusing growth. A faithful person may become afraid. They may misunderstand you. They may need time to process. They may even disappoint you. But their pattern should keep bending toward honesty, repair, respect, and care. And your pattern must do the same. My beloved child, this matters, because old wounds will sometimes enter the room before you realize they have arrived. A delayed message may awaken memories that belong to someone else. A quiet evening may make an old part of you wonder whether distance is beginning again. A disagreement may cause your body to prepare for abandonment, even when the person in front of you has not threatened to leave. The old story may speak quickly. Do not pretend you cannot hear it, but do not hand it the microphone. Pause, notice what is happening, Ask yourself whether the danger is present or remembered. Look at the evidence in front of you, then respond to the person who is actually there, not only to the people who hurt you before. My beloved child, healing does not mean old memories never knock. Healing means they no longer own the house. You can acknowledge fear without obeying it. You can say, this situation is touching something old in me. You can ask for reassurance without demanding control. You can take time to settle before speaking. You can tell the truth about what you feel while still taking responsibility for how you behave. That is strength. And if the person beside you is faithful, they will not mock that process. They will not use your wounds as leverage. They will not demand that you become instantly healed so they never have to practice patience. At the same time, they should not be required to carry every fear for you. Healthy love does not make one person the permanent rescuer and the other the permanent wounded one. Both people bring responsibility. Both people bring compassion. Both people keep learning. My beloved child, I am rebuilding more than your ability to trust another person. I am rebuilding your trust in yourself. For a long time, you doubted your own judgment. You asked how you missed certain signs. You wondered why you stayed. You questioned whether your heart could be trusted again. That self-doubt made you vulnerable in another way. Sometimes you looked outside yourself for someone to tell you what was true. You were afraid your own perception would fail you. But you are learning now. You can notice patterns. You can ask questions. You can listen to wise counsel. You can pray without surrendering common sense. You can change your mind when new information appears. You can leave when repeated behavior becomes harmful. You can stay when discomfort is simply part of honest growth. My beloved child, this is what restored inner trust looks like. It is not believing you will never make another mistake. It is knowing a mistake does not have to trap you. You can correct course, you can apologize, you can set a boundary, you can begin again, you can choose differently. That is why this season has not been wasted. Think of a house being strengthened before another story is added. The important work is not always visible from the street. Old supports are examined, weak places are reinforced. The foundation is checked before more weight is placed above it. That is what has been happening within you. You wanted the visible answer. I was strengthening the structure. You wanted the relationship. I was teaching you how not to lose yourself inside one. You wanted certainty. I was teaching you discernment. You wanted someone faithful. I was teaching you how to recognize faithfulness and how to practice it yourself. My beloved child, none of this requires you to become flawless before love can find you. It requires willingness. Willingness to be honest. Willingness to repair. Willingness to grow. Willingness to let another person be human without excusing behavior that repeatedly harms you. There is grace here, but grace is not denial. There is patience here, but patience is not endless tolerance. There is forgiveness here, but forgiveness does not erase the need for change. Faithfulness lives inside those distinctions. My beloved child, when something healthy begins, do not destroy it because one imperfect moment reminds you of an old chapter, and do not protect it blindly when repeated patterns show that the chapter is becoming unhealthy. Stay awake, stay humble, watch the fruit. Let consistency teach you what one emotional moment cannot. The person worth building with will not need to appear perfect. They will need to keep returning to truth. So will you. And as that truth becomes stronger, the past will begin losing another kind of power. You will stop using what happened before as the measuring stick for everything approaching now. That is the next freedom I want to give you. You are learning to meet what comes with open eyes and a grounded heart. You are learning enough patience to let reality speak clearly. My beloved child, it is time to stop asking the future to prove that it is not the past. Allow the future room to show you what it truly is. My beloved child, you are learning to meet what comes with open eyes, a grounded heart, and enough patience to let reality speak clearly. Now I want you to release another habit that followed you out of old relationships. Don't use the failures of the past as the measuring stick for everything that comes next. I know why you do it. The past taught you to prepare for disappointment. Someone once promised consistency and became distant. Someone once said they understood you, then used your honesty against you. Someone once made the beginning feel certain only to make the ending confusing. So now when something new appears, part of you searches for the old pattern. You ask where the hidden problem is. You wonder when warmth will change. You wait for kindness to become withdrawal. My beloved child, wisdom remembers the past, but fear repeats it before anything has happened. I do not want you forgetting what you learned. I want you to stop assuming every new person must become the person who hurt you. The past was a classroom. It need not become your own prophecy. You are not standing where you once stood. You notice more now. You ask better questions. You recognize when words and actions separate. You understand that attraction cannot replace character. You know that boundaries are not cruelty, that growth changes what you can recognize. My beloved child, quiet love may look different from what once captured your attention. The world often celebrates what is dramatic, the public display, the intense declaration, but lasting care is often revealed in smaller places. Someone remembers what matters to you. Someone notices when your voice carries more weight than your words admit. Someone stays present when the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Someone does not need an audience to treat you with respect. Someone keeps choosing honesty after the first excitement becomes ordinary life. That kind of love may not look spectacular from across the room, but it can become strong enough to carry real seasons. My beloved child, do not mistake quiet for weakness. It is valuable because it holds weight when the crossing becomes difficult. That is how healthy connection proves itself, not only when both people are rested, not only when attraction is strong, not only when plans work perfectly. Character becomes visible when disappointment enters and when schedules change. It becomes clear when misunderstanding happens and both people must choose whether pride or truth will lead. Remember how Ruth remained steady in ordinary faithfulness before she understood what her future would become. Her story was not built on one dramatic feeling. It moved through loyalty, responsibility, work discernment, and choices made without guaranteed outcomes. My beloved child, learn from that pace. Let what is new become known through ordinary days. You don't have to compare every new silence to an old one. You do not need to compare every disagreement to an old argument. You do not need to assume that one delayed response means abandonment is beginning again. Pause and ask what is actually true now. Is this person communicating? Are they consistent over time? Do they return after difficulty? Can both of you repair misunderstandings? Does their behavior give you more clarity as time passes or more confusion? Let present evidence answer present questions. My beloved child, the person you were during your old relationships is not the person listening now. You have walked through loss. You have confronted parts of yourself you once avoided. You have learned that loneliness is painful, but losing yourself to keep someone can hurt even more. You have learned that peace cannot be borrowed from another person. You have learned to sit with uncomfortable truth instead of running toward temporary relief. Do not minimize that growth. It matters. Your history changed you, but it does not have to imprison you. You can carry wisdom. You need not bring suspicion into every room. You can remember without rehearsing disaster. You can protect your heart without treating every new connection as guilty until proven innocent. My beloved child, recognition may begin more quietly than you expect. Not with a thunderous announcement, not with one repeated name that you immediately declare to be destiny. Perhaps it begins with an ordinary conversation that continues to matter because the character behind it remains consistent. Perhaps a person becomes noticeable because their actions keep matching their words. Perhaps you realize slowly that you feel less pressure to perform around them. Perhaps trust grows before you have language for what the relationship might become. That is enough for the beginning. You do not need complete understanding on the first day. Recognition can come in layers. The first layer may simply be awareness. This person deserves another conversation. There is something here worth learning more about. Then you let time do its work. My beloved child, don't pick apart every good moment till you've ruined your chance to receive it. Discernment is not endless suspicion. You can examine something without attacking it. You can ask questions without expecting betrayal. You can enjoy what is good while allowing reality to reveal the whole picture. Think of Elijah waiting for my voice. The wind came, the earth shook, fire appeared. Yet the moment that drew his attention came quietly. Not everything important arrives loudly. Sometimes clarity comes through stillness. Sometimes a relationship becomes meaningful because it keeps producing steady fruit. My beloved child, let that possibility challenge the old measuring stick. Your past trained you to notice intensity. Your healing is teaching you to notice consistency. Your past trained you to watch for abandonment. Your healing is teaching you to watch for responsibility. Your past trained you to prove your worth. Your healing is teaching you to notice whether someone can value you without requiring performance. That is a different way of seeing. And because you are seeing differently, what comes next may not resemble what came before. Do not reject something healthy simply because it lacks familiar chaos. And do not ignore danger when real evidence appears. Stay balanced, stay prayerful, stay awake. My beloved child, if a person becomes important in your life, let their name gain meaning through the life attached to it. A name alone proves nothing. Character gives it weight. Consistency gives it credibility. Time gives it context. Mutual willingness gives the connection somewhere to go. You do not need heaven to force you past your judgment. I can guide you while you remain thoughtful, responsible, and free. The new thing does not need the past erased in order to be new. It only needs you to stop demanding that every future moment wear an old face. My beloved child, you have changed. The person you may one day meet will bring a history too. And if something meaningful begins between you, it will not be the meeting of two untouched stories. It will be the meeting of two journeys that have both been shaped, corrected, humbled, and refined. That is where I want to take you next. Not into performance, not into pretending either of you arrived without scars, into the meeting of two refined journeys that can finally come close without either person needing to perform for love. My beloved child, this is where the story begins to change again. You have been learning not to measure the future by the past. You have been learning that quiet consistency can matter more than dramatic beginnings. Now I want you to understand what can happen when two people who have each been refined by life finally meet without needing to perform for each other. You have had your road, they will have had theirs. You have carried questions that changed you. They will have carried questions that changed them too. You have had to learn where fear was speaking. They will have had to face their own fear. You have had to discover that love without truth becomes confusion. They will need to know that too. My beloved child, healthy connection is not created because one person has done all the growing and the other simply arrives to receive the benefit. Both people must bring enough humility. The relationship must be allowed to become something new instead of being forced to repeat what came before. This is why separate journeys can be meaningful. Think of two roads beginning on opposite sides of a mountain. Each traveler sees different scenery. One walks through forest, the other crosses dry ground. One learns patience because the path is slow. The other learns courage because the path is exposed. They cannot see each other yet, but each mile is shaping the person who may eventually stand at the same crossing. My beloved child, I want you to hold that image without turning it into a guarantee about one specific person. The point is not that every difficult season secretly points to a romance. The point is that growth changes what you can bring into relationship. Pain can teach discernment if you let it. Loneliness can show you whether you know how to remain connected to your own life. Boundaries can teach you what respect feels like. And when two people have learned those lessons honestly, the meeting can feel different. Not because both are flawless, because both are more awake. My beloved child, that kind of meeting may feel less like a collision and more like a rhythm. You speak and the other person listens. They speak and you do not rush to defend yourself. There is attraction perhaps, but attraction is not carrying the entire weight. Something deeper begins to form through presence. A healthy connection should not ask you to turn into a polished version of yourself. It should invite you to become more honest. You do not need to arrive with perfect answers. You do not need to hide the parts of your story that taught you difficult lessons. My beloved child, presence is more powerful than performance. Performance asks, what version of me will make this person stay? Presence asks, can I remain truthful while we learn who we are together? Performance watches every reaction. Presence listens. Performance tries to manage the outcome. Presence allows reality to unfold. Performance hides imperfections. Presence takes responsibility for them. Remember Nathanael asking whether anything good could come from Nazareth. When Jesus met him, he did not need an elaborate performance. He was seen in his honesty, even in his skepticism. The encounter began with truth, not image management. My beloved child, you need relationships where truth can enter that early. Not brutal honesty used as an excuse for cruelty. Not oversharing before trust exists. honest presence. The courage to let someone meet the real person gradually. The courage to say, I do not know. The courage to say that matters to me. The courage to say I need time. The courage to admit when you were wrong. And the courage to receive the same honesty from them without punishing them for being human. This can feel vulnerable because you once learned that being admired was safer than being known. Someone can admire your strength while never seeing your fatigue. They can admire your confidence while never hearing your questions. They can admire your kindness while never noticing how often you abandon yourself to keep peace. But being known comes closer. My beloved child, being known means someone sees that you can be strong and still need rest, that you can have faith and still wrestle with uncertainty, that you can love deeply and still need boundaries, that you can forgive and still decide not to reopen every door, that you can be growing and still have places that need healing. Healthy love does not fall apart when the image becomes more human. It becomes more honest. And this must work in both directions. Do not ask another person to take their mask off while you keep yours tightly in place. Do not demand vulnerability you are unwilling to handle gently. Do not ask for honesty and then punish every answer you do not like. My beloved child, two refined journeys meet well when both people understand that closeness carries responsibility. If someone trusts you with a tender part of their story, hold it carefully. If they tell you a fear, do not save it for a future argument. If they reveal a weakness, do not turn that weakness into a permanent definition of who they are and expect the same care in return. Not because two people merge until individuality disappears, because two people bring their whole lives into partnership without requiring the other to carry all of it. Think of a bridge supported from both sides. One side cannot carry the entire span. Both foundations matter. Both must be stable enough to bear weight. My beloved child, that is a healthier picture than believing another person will complete you. You are not half a person waiting for another half. Neither are they. A meaningful partnership can increase what two grounded people are able to build, give, learn, and endure together, but it should not require either person to disappear. That is why the preparation has mattered. You have been learning to stay present without chasing, to speak without shrinking, to listen without losing your own voice, to forgive without abandoning boundaries, to hope without making another person responsible for your identity. Someone walking beside you would need to practice those same things too. My beloved child, if such a connection begins, let it grow naturally. Do not rush to prove that it is special. You do not need to display every detail. You do not need an audience to validate what is real. Let ordinary faithfulness become the evidence. Let shared laughter matter. Let difficult conversations matter. Let the way you both recover after misunderstanding matter. Let the quiet decision to keep telling the truth matter. A relationship becomes strong through what both people repeatedly practice, and something else happens when performance fades. You finally have enough emotional space to be seen, truly seen. That can feel more frightening than being admired, because admiration can be controlled by what you reveal. Being known asks you to stop controlling every angle. My beloved child, you have spent years learning how to protect yourself from that closeness. Now the next lesson is learning how to let someone know you without flinching away from the very intimacy you once prayed to receive. My beloved child, you have spent years learning how to protect yourself from closeness. Now you are learning something harder. You are learning how to remain present when someone begins to see you clearly. Not the polished version, not the version that stays strong so nobody has to worry about you. The real you, the one with questions, the one who has grown but still has tender places. My beloved child, being admired can feel safer than being known. Admiration stays at a distance. Someone can admire your strength without seeing the nights you doubted yourself. They can admire your kindness without knowing how often that kindness once became self-abandonment. They can admire your faith without knowing how many prayers were whispered through tears. But being known comes closer. It asks you to stop controlling every angle. It asks you to let another person learn who you are honestly, with patience, without the performance that once helped you feel safe. I know why that can make you flinch. There were times when you opened a private door and someone entered carelessly. You shared a fear, and it was used against you. You admitted a weakness, and someone treated it like evidence that you were difficult. You told the truth about what hurt, and instead of being met with care, you were made to feel ashamed for having needs. My beloved child, those experiences taught you to pull back. You changed the subject when conversations became too personal. You used humor when you wanted to cry. You said it was nothing when it was not. You became skilled at revealing enough to seem open while keeping the deepest rooms locked that kept you safe. But protection that never changes can become isolation. You were made for relationships where truth can breathe, not where private places are exposed quickly, not where vulnerability is demanded before trust exists, but where you can be known without fearing that being known will become a weapon. My beloved child, this requires courage and discernment. You do not owe your deepest story to everyone who shows interest. Closeness should be earned through character. Watch what someone does with small truths before giving them larger ones. Do they listen without rushing to fix you? Do they remember what matters without storing it for leverage? Do they honor your boundaries after learning where you are sensitive? Do they respond to weakness with compassion while encouraging responsibility? These things matter. Remember the woman at the well. Jesus knew the complicated parts of her story, yet he did not reduce her to those parts. He spoke truth, but he also spoke to the deeper thirst beneath the history. She was seen without being flattened into her mistakes. My beloved child, being known well does not mean someone agrees with everything you do. It means they can see complexity without turning you into a label. They can recognize your wounds without treating you as only wounded. They can see your strength without expecting you to be strong every hour. And you must learn to offer the same grace in return. A healthy connection is not one person studying the other from a safe distance. Both people are being seen. Both people are learning. Both people are responsible for handling what they discover with care. My beloved child, the difficult seasons you survived have shaped this capacity in you. Some seasons felt like nothing more than pressure. You wondered why so much had to be so hard. You wondered why relationships ended while life was already heavy. You wondered why clarity seemed to arrive only after you were exhausted. I will not tell you that the painful things happened simply to prepare you for romance, but no honest lesson needs to be wasted. You can take what the hard season taught you without calling the harm good. You learned resilience. You learned how charm can disappear when responsibility is required. You learned that peace should not depend on another person's mood. You learned that your intuition needs evidence, not panic. You learned that boundaries can disappoint someone and still be right. My beloved child, those lessons have made you more discerning. They have also made you more capable of loving without disappearing. That is refinement, not becoming harder, becoming clearer, not becoming suspicious of everyone, becoming slower to hand trust to someone who has not shown they can carry it, not closing your heart, learning how to open it with wisdom. Think of silver being refined. The purpose is not to destroy what is valuable. The heat separates what does not belong from what remains. In the same way, some seasons exposed beliefs that could not continue with you. The belief that being chosen made you worthy. The belief that conflict meant abandonment. The belief that you had to be easy to keep. The belief that love was proven by how much pain you could tolerate. My beloved child, those beliefs are losing their hold. And because they are losing their hold, you can begin to let someone see you without preparing for rejection. You can say, "This is what matters to me." You can admit, "This is something I am still working through." You can tell someone, "I need reassurance here," without making them responsible for your entire sense of safety. You can receive care without testing it until it breaks. You can accept a compliment without arguing against it. You can allow someone to know your story without apologizing for every chapter. That is a different kind of freedom. My beloved child, do not confuse openness with losing boundaries. The goal is not to become completely unguarded. The goal is to become appropriately open. A door can open because the person outside has shown respect. It does not need to be removed from its hinges. You can remain wise and still become known. And when someone does see you clearly, resist the old impulse to step backward simply because intimacy feels unfamiliar. Pause. Breathe. Look at what is actually happening. Is the person treating what they know with care? Are they becoming more respectful as closeness grows? Can you both speak honestly without trying to control each other? If the answer continues to be yes over time, let yourself stay present. My beloved child, you do not have to earn the right to be loved by hiding what makes you human. You also do not need another person to approve every part of you before you can stand securely in who you are. You are learning self-acceptance, so that closeness becomes a gift, not a verdict. And when two people can be known without performance, something deeper becomes possible. Love stops being only about how someone makes you feel in a moment. It begins to show itself through what both people keep choosing: presence, consistency, responsibility, truth, service. My beloved child, being known is only the beginning. What gives a connection strength after the masks come down is constancy. And when constancy is joined with shared purpose, love becomes something both people can build with. It is not merely something they experience. My beloved child, being known is only the beginning. What gives a connection strength after the masks come down is constancy. And when constancy is joined with shared purpose, love becomes something both people can build with. It is not merely something they experience. You have seen the opposite before. Someone arrived with intensity. They spoke quickly. They promised easily. They made you feel as though everything had changed overnight. Then ordinary life arrived and the energy changed with it. The messages became inconsistent. The effort became unpredictable. The explanations grew longer. The actions grew smaller. My beloved child, that is why I want you to stop measuring love by the flash of its start. Drama can happen in a moment. Constancy is revealed over time. Constancy is the person who keeps telling the truth when honesty costs comfort. It is the person who remains kind when frustration rises. It is the person who remembers that repair matters after conflict. It is the person who keeps showing up in ordinary ways. There is no applause, no excitement, and no audience watching. That kind of love may not always sound poetic, but it has weight. My beloved child, daily decisions build what grand gestures cannot sustain. A relationship is shaped by hundreds of small choices. Will I listen or defend myself immediately? Will I tell the truth or hide what is inconvenient? Will I keep my word when nobody forces me to? Will I protect this person's dignity when they are not in the room? Will I return to the conversation after tension instead of letting pride create distance? Those choices become the structure. Remember how Scripture describes faithfulness in small things before greater responsibility is given. Character is not proven only in important moments. It becomes visible through what a person repeatedly does with what is already in their hands. My beloved child, watch the small things. Do not become suspicious of every imperfection, but do notice patterns. Does someone remember what they promised? Do they make space for your life instead of expecting your life to orbit theirs? Do they treat service as mutual? Can they celebrate your growth without feeling threatened by it? Can they encourage to your calling without trying to steer every step? Constancy is not clinging. It is not being together every hour. It is not constant messaging. It is not losing individuality in the name of closeness. Healthy constancy means the relationship remains dependable even while two people continue living responsible lives. My beloved child, that matters because love should enlarge your capacity for truth, service, rest, generosity, and purpose. It should not reduce your entire world to one person's attention. I do not want you entering a connection where romance becomes the only thing either of you knows how to build. A meaningful partnership can support those things instead of competing with them. My beloved child, shared purpose does not mean two people must have the same job, personality, or dream. It means there is enough agreement and direction that your lives can strengthen rather than constantly sabotage each other. Perhaps one person serves through work and another through family. Perhaps one builds, another teaches. Perhaps one is naturally visible, while the other prefers quiet contribution. The form can differ. The deeper question is whether both people value truth, responsibility, compassion, growth, and service beyond themselves. Think of Priscilla and Aquila again. Their partnership moved beyond private affection. They worked, welcomed people, learned, taught, and served together. Their relationship had an outward direction. Healthy love does not need to become a public ministry to have purpose. It can make ordinary responsibilities feel less lonely because both people understand that love must become dependable action. Purpose is not always a platform. Sometimes purpose is simply the good that becomes more possible because two people keep strengthening each other. My beloved child, do not romanticize this. Shared purpose still needs plain, practical conversation. What each of you believes commitment requires. What kind of life each of you is actually trying to build. Chemistry cannot answer those questions for you. Attraction cannot solve incompatible direction. Constancy and purpose become clearer when two people are willing to discuss real life instead of living only inside romantic imagination. My beloved child, you once thought being deeply wanted might be enough. Now you know better. You can be wanted by someone who is not ready to build. You can be loved emotionally by someone whose choices still create instability. You can share powerful feelings and still disagree about the foundations of life. That does not make the feelings fake. It means feelings are not the whole structure. This is why wisdom asks more. Can we move in a direction that honors both of us? Can we support each other's growth without keeping score? Can we make decisions that protect trust? Can we disagree about smaller things without losing agreement about what matters most? Can we create something that is healthier because both of us are present, my beloved child? Those questions bring romance down from fantasy and place it inside real life. That is where lasting love must live. And there is something beautiful about constancy when it is real. You stop wondering whether affection will vanish every time life becomes inconvenient. You stop needing dramatic reassurance because daily behavior is already doing the talking. You do not have to interpret silence every hour. You do not have to earn another day of closeness through performance. The connection becomes less about proving and more about building. My beloved child, that kind of stability can reach beyond the relationship itself. Not because everyone around you will admire you, not because your partnership will be perfect, but because healthy relationships affect the spaces around them. My beloved child, your life has always been meant to hold more than private survival. You have carried desires to create, serve, protect, encourage, teach, build, or leave something useful behind. Do not assume relationship must compete with those desires. The right kind of partnership should have room for them. It should help both people become more faithful to what matters, not less. And you should be willing to offer the same support. Shared purpose is not asking, what can this person do for my dream? It is asking, what kind of life can we responsibly build while honoring the callings, limits, gifts, and obligations each of us brings. My beloved child, you do not need to plan that entire future now. You do not need to decide what a connection means before it has had time to become clear. Keep watching the daily choices. Keep noticing whether constancy is real. Keep listening for shared direction. Let purpose emerge through honest conversation and lived experience. And as those things become visible, another question will rise inside you. Can I stay open while this becomes more real? Can I remain willing without demanding certainty before it's time? That is where I want to take you next. Because as something meaningful draws nearer, willingness matters more than perfect faith, and openness must learn how to stand beside patience. My beloved child, something meaningful is coming closer. Willingness matters more than perfect faith, and openness needs to stand beside patience. You do not need to know every detail before you take the next honest step. You do not need a complete map before you can stay open to what is good. I know you still have questions. You wonder whether the waiting has meant anything. You wonder whether the prayers you whispered when nobody heard you were ever received. You wonder whether the losses, delays, and quiet seasons were simply empty spaces between one disappointment and another. My beloved child, I heard what you could not explain. I heard the prayer beneath the words. I heard the longing beneath the silence. I saw the moments when you tried to convince yourself that you no longer cared because caring had become tiring. I saw you keep moving even when your hope felt thin. And I want you to understand something now. Willingness is not pretending you have no fear. Willingness is saying, I am still open to the truth even though fear is here. It is saying, I will not force an outcome. I will not close my heart merely because I cannot control the timing. It is saying I can hope without turning hope into a demand. My beloved child, that kind of willingness is strong. Remember Gideon. He was not introduced as someone overflowing with confidence. He questioned. He hesitated. He needed reassurance. Yet his uncertainty did not prevent him from taking faithful steps when clarity came. My beloved child, I am not asking you to manufacture certainty. I am asking you to remain responsive to what is true. My beloved child, you have survived enough to know that feelings deserve attention, but they do not always deserve authority. Fear can speak. It does not have to lead. Hope can speak. It does not have to rush. Attraction can speak. It does not have to decide. Let truth remain the guide. This is how willingness becomes wise. There were fires in your life that changed you. Some showed where you gave too much. Some showed how easily you mistook being needed for being loved. Some showed you that you could survive an ending you once believed would destroy you. Those seasons were painful. I will not ask you to call pain beautiful just because something was learned from it, but I can help you carry the lesson without carrying the wound as your identity. My beloved child, there were losses too. People left. Certain futures you imagined never arrived. Some losses created room you did not want. Yet in that room you began hearing yourself again. You noticed what you actually valued. You discovered that loneliness and peace are not the same thing. You learned that an empty chair is sometimes healthier than a chair occupied by someone who repeatedly makes you disappear. That knowledge matters now. It keeps willingness from becoming desperation. You are not opening the door because you cannot bear to be alone. You are opening it because you are capable of recognizing whether what stands outside deserves to come closer. My beloved child, there were silences as well. You prayed and did not receive immediate answers. You asked for direction and still had to make ordinary decisions with limited information. You waited for clarity while life continued. Those silences may have frustrated you, but they also taught you to listen differently. You learned that guidance does not always arrive as a dramatic feeling. Sometimes it arrives through wisdom, sometimes through scripture, sometimes through a trusted voice, sometimes through consequences that reveal what a pattern truly produces, sometimes through the calm that comes after you stop arguing with what reality has already shown you. My beloved child, every season does not form one perfect puzzle that you can decode from a distance. Life is more honest than that. Some things remain mysterious. Some questions may not receive the answer you expected. But you can still notice how your experiences have shaped you. You are more willing to let time reveal what excitement cannot. Your responsibility remains simple. Stay present, stay prayerful, stay honest, stay willing. My beloved child, willingness does not mean giving immediate access. It means allowing reality to approach without rejecting it before you know what it is. You can crack the door open a little. You can have another conversation. You can ask another question. You can watch whether consistency remains. You can listen to wise counsel. You can pray and still examine the fruit. That is enough for today. You do not need tomorrow before tomorrow comes. Jesus taught his followers not to carry tomorrow as if today did not already have enough to hold. My beloved child, let that wisdom settle you. You have spent enough time trying to live 3 chapters ahead. Come back to the page in front of you. What is true now? What is being asked of you now? What healthy step is available now? Take that step, then stop. Let the next part reveal itself in its time. This is how trust becomes practical, not through a giant leap into uncertainty, but through small acts of honesty that keep you aligned with truth. My beloved child, perhaps the promise you are waiting for will not arrive in the exact form you once imagined. Perhaps the person who becomes meaningful will surprise you. Perhaps the beginning will be quieter. Perhaps it will take longer to understand. That does not make it less valuable. You are not being asked to recognize destiny in one glance. You are being asked to remain awake enough to recognize healthy fruit as it grows. And if nothing has become clear, yet your life is not on hold, keep living, keep serving, keep resting, keep becoming someone who can receive love without making love your entire identity. My beloved child, willingness also means allowing good things to exist without immediately asking how they will end. You have done that before. A peaceful moment arrived and you prepared for its loss. Someone treated you kindly and you wondered when the kindness would change. Hope entered and you tried to reduce it before disappointment could. But you do not have to rehearse grief every time goodness appears. You can receive today without demanding guarantees about forever. That is courage too. My beloved child, stay willing. Not because I am promising you a specific name by a specific date. Not because every longing will unfold exactly as you pictured it. Stay willing because fear should not be allowed to close every door before truth has a chance to knock. Stay willing because your heart has learned wisdom without needing to become stone. Stay willing because you can now meet possibility with both hope and discernment. And as you do, something else will begin changing. The season that once felt frozen will start to loosen, not only around relationship, but inside the way you see yourself. The next thing I want you to remember is the worth that remained yours through every winter and how to recognize it as the new season begins to thaw. My beloved child, this new season is beginning to thaw around you. Remember what waiting made you forget. Your worth did not decrease because the answer took time. Your value did not disappear because someone failed to recognize it. And your future was not canceled because certain doors closed before you understood why. You have doubted yourself more than you admit. You looked at what ended and wondered what was wrong with you. You watched other people move forward and wondered why your own story seemed delayed. You carried the quiet fear that maybe love that lasts for others wasn't meant to last for you. My beloved child, I want that fear brought into the light. Not so you can pretend it never existed. So you can stop letting it define what you expect from the future. Your worth has never depended on whether another person chose you. It has never depended on how quickly someone recognized your heart. It has never depended on whether you were easy to understand, impressive enough to admire, or strong enough to hide every wound. You belong to me before anyone else chooses you. That is where your identity begins. Remember David before the throne. When Samuel came to Jesse's house, David was not even standing in the room with his brothers. Others looked more obvious, more prepared, more visible. Yet what was overlooked by people was not overlooked by me. My beloved child, being overlooked does not make you invisible. Being misunderstood does not erase what is true inside you. And being rejected by someone who could not meet you well does not become a final statement about your value. There were seasons when you tried harder because you thought effort could make another person finally see you. You made excuses for their distance. You lowered your expectations because you feared that asking for more would leave you with nothing. But the more you abandoned yourself, the less loved you actually felt. My beloved child, that was not because you lacked worth. It was because you were asking another person to confirm something they never had the authority to create. Human love can reflect value. It cannot manufacture it. A healthy person may see beautiful things in you that you stopped noticing. They may remind you that your quietness carries strength. They may appreciate the way you listen. They may value your loyalty, humor, patience, faith, curiosity, or tenderness. But they should not become the source from which your worth flows. If they do, every change in their attention will feel like a change in your identity. I want something steadier for you. My beloved child, the new season is not only about whether another person appears, it is about what begins waking inside you. You are starting to believe that you do not have to earn every good thing through exhaustion. You are starting to understand that being loved well is not the same as being rescued. You are starting to recognize that peace can exist before relationship and continue within relationship. Think of ground after a long winter. The surface can look unchanged. Warmth is already moving underneath. Roots begin responding before leaves appear. Water starts running beneath soil. Green hasn't shown yet. Then one morning, what looked lifeless begins showing signs of movement. My beloved child, healing often works like that. You may not notice the exact day when you stopped checking whether someone missed you. You may not remember the exact moment when a memory stopped controlling your whole afternoon. You may not know when solitude stopped feeling like punishment and began feeling like space. But something shifted. The frozen places began loosening. You began returning to yourself. Don't rush past it just because you're waiting on a romantic answer. Your capacity to receive kindness without immediately distrusting it is growing. Your ability to walk away from confusion without turning departure into failure is growing too. My beloved child, this is what makes the next season different. Not that pain will never happen again. Not that every person you meet will understand you. Not that the next relationship is guaranteed to become the one you imagined. The difference is that you are no longer entering every possibility from the same wounded position. You know more about yourself now. You know what dishonesty costs. You know what overgiving does. You know that chemistry can be strong while compatibility is weak. You know that someone can desire you and still lack the character to build with you. And you know that your worth remains intact when you choose to leave what cannot become healthy. My beloved child, if someone meaningful enters your life, let them discover you slowly. Let them notice what others missed. Not because they have supernatural vision, because patient people see what hurried people overlook. A steady person may notice how carefully you choose your words. They may see that your quietness is not emptiness. They may understand that your independence was built through difficult lessons. They may value the tenderness you once hid because others treated it carelessly. You do not need to reject appreciation just to prove that you are independent. Receiving love is not weakness. Receiving kindness is not surrendering your identity. Being seen can become part of healing when you remember that another person's sight does not determine whether you exist. My beloved child, let yourself receive without making the receiver your God. Let love become partnership rather than proof. You can be chosen without needing the choice to validate your entire life. You can be loved without making love the only place you find peace. You can be deeply known while still belonging to yourself and to me. That kind of security changes the way you love. You become less desperate to control outcomes. You become more willing to speak honestly. You stop treating every disagreement as a threat to your existence. You stop accepting crumbs simply because attention feels better than silence. My beloved child, the thawing season is not dramatic every day. Some mornings will still feel cold. You may still wonder whether you are behind. When that happens, do not dig up the ground to see whether the roots are growing. Continue tending what is healthy. Pray, rest, keep your commitments, stay connected to wise people. Care for your body. Do the work in front of you. Let growth happen without constant inspection. Remember the words from Isaiah about new things springing forth before people fully perceive them. The point is not to chase signs. The point is to remain awake to genuine change. My beloved child, something genuine has already changed in you. You are remembering your worth, and as that memory becomes stronger, waiting will lose some of its power to accuse you. The unfinished timing will no longer mean you are forgotten. It will simply mean the story is still unfolding. That is where I want to take you next. How to remain anchored while timing finishes its work without forcing the future, abandoning the present, or measuring your worth by how quickly the next door opens. My beloved child, as you move through this season, remember what you have already learned. Your worth is not measured by how quickly the next door opens, and the silence between prayer and answer does not mean you have been forgotten. You are standing in a place where timing still has work to do. Your task is not to force it. Your task is to remain anchored while the story continues to unfold. There will be days when patience feels easy. There will also be days when it does not. A quiet evening may suddenly feel heavier than usual. A conversation may stir old questions. You may look around and wonder why nothing seems to be moving fast enough. My beloved child, when that happens, do not let urgency rewrite everything you have learned. Waiting can make the mind dramatic. It can turn one slow week into a conclusion about your future. It can make silence feel like rejection. It can make uncertainty feel like proof that nothing good is being prepared. But uncertainty is not the same as abandonment. You do not need to fill every unanswered space with fear. Think of an anchor beneath the surface of the water. The waves may keep moving. The wind may change. The boat may rise and fall. Yet the anchor does not need the surface to become calm. It can hold. My beloved child, that is how I want you to live now. Let truth hold you while emotion moves. Let what you already know remain stronger than what one difficult moment makes you fear. You know that rushing has cost you before. You know that loneliness can make weak options look stronger than they are. You know that attention can feel like clarity when your heart is tired. So when waiting becomes uncomfortable, do not run backward toward what you already outgrew simply because it is familiar. Do not reopen an old door because the new hallway feels quiet. Do not lower your standards because patience feels expensive. Do not call anxiety guidance simply because it speaks loudly. My beloved child, timing is not passive. There are things that become visible only through time. Character needs time. Trust needs time. Compatibility needs time. Healing needs time. Even your own understanding needs time. You may meet someone and feel hopeful. Hope still needs room to breathe before it becomes a decision. You may notice consistency. Consistency becomes meaningful because it continues. You may feel peace. Peace is strongest when it remains beside truth, responsibility, and reality. That is why I keep bringing you back to patience. Remember Joseph. He carried dreams long before he understood how his life would unfold. There were years when the distance between his dream and what he was living must have felt impossible to explain. Yet waiting was not permission to stop being responsible for the life in front of him. My beloved child, do the same. Do not make waiting your identity. Live, work, rest, serve. Keep your commitments. Strengthen your friendships. Care for the responsibilities already in your hands. Let your present life remain meaningful, even while part of your heart still hopes for partnership. You are not standing in a waiting room where nothing matters until someone arrives. Your life is happening now. And this matters because a healthy relationship should join a life that is already being lived, not become the emergency that finally makes life begin. My beloved child, I also want you to release another expectation. A future relationship will not erase your past. It will not make every wound disappear overnight. It will not remove every insecurity the moment someone chooses you. There may still be memories. There may still be difficult conversations. There may still be days when old fears return and ask whether you are safe. But healthy partnership can give those fears a different place to land. Instead of hiding, you can speak. Instead of testing someone, you can ask. Instead of assuming abandonment, you can look at present evidence. Instead of expecting another person to rescue you from every uncomfortable feeling, you can bring your own responsibility into the room. My beloved child, this is what makes partnership meaningful. Two people do not become one another's cure. They become companions in the work of building something honest. They encourage, they correct, they forgive, they set boundaries. They help each other remember what matters. They make decisions that protect trust. They carry burdens together without pretending either person has no burden of their own. That kind of partnership is stronger than fantasy because it can survive reality. My beloved child, do not demand that love prove itself by making life effortless. Look instead for whether it makes honesty more possible. Does the connection create room for growth? Does it help both people become more responsible? Can you face difficulty without turning against each other? Can you remain kind when disappointment enters? Can you support each other without becoming dependent on constant reassurance? Those are stronger. Question. They keep you anchored in what can actually sustain a life. And while timing finishes its work, remember that silence can still contain movement. A seed beneath the soil does not announce every change. Roots form where no one applauds. Strength develops before the first visible shoot appears. But you do not need to dig up the ground every morning to prove that growth is happening. My beloved child, let some things develop without constant inspection. You do not need to interpret every coincidence. You do not need to ask whether every new person is the answer. Stay grounded enough to let reality introduce itself. If someone enters your life, meet them as a person before turning them into a promise. Learn their character. Listen to their story. Notice how they handle truth. Let them learn you too. Give the connection room to become what it actually is. My beloved child, there is freedom in that. You no longer have to force meaning because you are afraid. Meaning will never come. You can remain hopeful without becoming consumed. You can desire partnership without making delay an accusation against your worth. You can trust me while still asking good questions and taking responsibility for your choices. That is mature faith, not certainty about every outcome. A steady willingness to walk with truth, even when the next page has not been shown. My beloved child, timing is finishing work that impatience cannot complete. Let it. Remain anchored, remain honest, remain present. What comes next should not be received with panic, fantasy, or desperation. It should be received with the peace, readiness, boundaries, and discernment you have been building through this entire journey. You have not waited in vain simply because the answer is unfinished. You have been learning how to stand steady enough to recognize what deserves your yes. And that is where I want to take you next. How to receive what comes without losing yourself, without overthinking every step, and without demanding that one new beginning carry the weight of your entire future. My beloved child, you have reached the place where waiting must become receiving. You have learned to stand without chasing and to hope without forcing. You have learned to watch character instead of being carried away by intensity. Now the final lesson is simple, but it will ask something real from you. When something healthy comes, do not reject it simply because fear knows the language of the past better than your heart knows the language of peace. Receive slowly. Receive wisely. Receive with open eyes. You do not need to overthink every good moment until it becomes heavy. My beloved child, readiness lives between those extremes. If someone enters your life and begins showing the qualities you have been learning to recognize, let the relationship breathe. Notice the consistency. Notice whether words and actions remain connected. Notice whether your boundaries are respected. Notice whether both of you can speak honestly without making every disagreement feel like an emergency. Let what is real settle into the soil of ordinary life before you decide what it has to become. My beloved child, some of your old habits may still try to interrupt this. You may look for the moment when the good thing will change. You may think that protecting yourself means expecting disappointment before disappointment arrives, but that is not protection anymore. That is fear trying to stay employed after the danger has passed. You can thank the old instinct for what it once tried to do, then choose differently. Ask what is true now. My beloved child, this is how peace works in life. Peace is being able to ask questions without getting lost inside them. Peace is knowing you can move one honest step at a time. Remember how the Israelites gathered manna one day at a time. They were not asked to control the whole future in one morning. They were asked to trust enough for the portion in front of them. My beloved child, carry that wisdom into what comes next. One conversation at a time, one boundary at a time. Do not demand that a new beginning explain the whole future. Let tomorrow have its own questions. Today has enough truth for today. And if a person becomes important to you, do not make them responsible for healing everything you carried before they arrived. They are not responsible for erasing every wound, calming every fear, or proving your worth every morning. My beloved child, healthy love becomes stronger when two people meet as responsible human beings, not as rescuer and rescued. Bring your faith. Bring your willingness to apologize when you are wrong. Bring your courage to say no when something violates what is healthy, and allow the other person to bring their humanity too. Do not demand perfection because you are afraid of being hurt again. Look for faithfulness. Look for repair. Look for humility. Look for the willingness to keep growing. My beloved child, receiving also means accepting that something good may feel ordinary. You spent so long associating love with emotional storms that peace can seem almost too simple. Maybe there is no dramatic declaration. Maybe there is just someone who keeps showing up, someone who does not disappear when you express a need, someone who can laugh with you, pray with you, disagree with you, and still return to truth. Do not overlook ordinary goodness because chaos trained your eyes to search for fireworks. A steady lamp will guide you farther than a flash of lightning. My beloved child, let that image stay with you. You do not need a relationship that blinds you with intensity. You need enough light to keep walking wisely. And remember this, if the connection is not healthy, you are still allowed to step back. Receiving does not mean surrendering discernment. An open heart still has a door. A peaceful spirit still uses wisdom. Hope does not cancel boundaries. Prayer does not cancel responsibility. If repeated actions contradict beautiful words, believe the pattern. If respect disappears whenever someone is frustrated, pay attention. If your no is continually treated like a challenge to overcome, do not call that love. My beloved child, readiness includes the strength to receive what is good and the strength to release what proves unhealthy. That is how different you are now. At the beginning of this journey, you wanted a name. You wanted certainty. You wanted to know who was coming and when. But I have been showing you something deeper than a name. I have been teaching you how to recognize character, how to understand why old doors closed, how to let trust grow without abandoning wisdom, how to stop shrinking, how to release shame, how to recognize safety, how to value constancy, how to remain yourself when someone comes close. This preparation matters whether a relationship begins tomorrow or much later. My beloved child, your life is not suspended until romance appears. You already have a life to live with me. You already have people to love, work to do, rest to receive, truth to practice, gifts to steward. Do not neglect those things while watching the horizon. If someone worthy of walking beside you appears, let them meet a person who is already living, not waiting in desperation, not frozen in expectation, living, growing, serving, laughing, healing, becoming. My beloved child, this is the readiness I want you to carry forward. Not certainty about one specific person, not a prediction you must force into reality. Readiness is a position of heart, open enough to receive, grounded enough to observe, strong enough to ask difficult questions, soft enough to enjoy what is good, wise enough to walk away when truth requires it, patient enough to let something beautiful develop without tearing it open to see whether it is real. The season ahead may surprise you, but surprise does not need to become fear. Let each good thing arrive at the size it actually is. A conversation can simply be a conversation. A friendship can grow before it is named. Trust can deepen before promises are made. Love can become clearer through time. My beloved child, take the next faithful step, and then let the next step wait until it becomes visible. You do not have to carry the whole road tonight. I have been with you through the endings, the silence, the rebuilding, the questions, and the return of hope. I will remain with you in whatever comes next. So go forward with peace. Not because every desire is guaranteed, not because you will never be disappointed again. Go forward because you now know how to remain rooted in truth. Receive what is healthy. Release what is not. Let character speak. Let time speak. Let peace walk beside wisdom. And when love comes close enough to be known, do not disappear from yourself to receive it. Stand fully present. Let yourself be seen. Let the other person be seen too. Build slowly. Love honestly. Keep your boundaries. Keep your faith. Keep growing. My beloved child, you do not need to chase the future anymore. Live faithfully in the present, and let what is real meet you there. Amen.